Hey, let's go. Welcome into Candlestick Chronicles, a 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Madsen. I write about the 49ers over at NinersWire.com, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group. Joining me right now is Chris Biederman of the Sacramento Bee. And before we dive into the 49ers 30-23 victory over the Rams at SoFi Stadium, we need to tell you about our friends at Lamb Chops. SGLambchops.com is the website. SG Lamb Chops is the Instagram handle. Candlestick20 is the promo code you can use at sglambchops.com to get 20% off your order. Chris has got the website up right now on the video. They've got hoodies. They've got shorts. They've got chains with the cool Cleaver logo on it. It's all high quality. It's all comfortable. It's all season. Like I'm looking right now. Joggers, hoodies, shorts. What else do you need in your life? Nothing.
A lot of great stuff on sale right now, too.
Yeah, ton of good sales going on. Get to sglambchops.com right now. Join the herd. Use code Candlestick20 for 20% off your order. Oh, a bucket hat. Let's go. Get yourself a bucket hat. Candlestick20.
Have you seen these clownfish cleaver shorts before?
No.
Wow.
Those are amazing. Rainbow clownfish cleaver shorts. Get yourself a pair. They're like half off right now. More than half off. Use code Candlestick20 for 20% off your order today at sglambchops.com. Candlestick Chronicles is also sponsored by Cooperage Brewing. CooperageBrewing.com is the website. You can go to that site, click on beers, go to order now. You can get yourself a case of Candlestick Chronicles shipped directly to your door. They package it up real nice. It drops on your doorstep. You sign for it, and you have a case of Candlestick Chronicles Hazy IPA at your front door. It is the single best way to acquire beer. And Chris, I can't wait for our event on the 23rd to pick up some new batch of Candlestick Chronicles Hazy.
We're inside of a week. We have some special guests that hopefully we're going to be able to announce in the coming days. It's going to be a lot of fun. The events have been fun in the past. If you've gone to the last two, obviously Candlestick Chronicles Hazy IPA, I will put it up against anything. It is not just a gimmicky beer with our logo on it and a cool can. It's legitimately delicious, particularly if you love hazies. But everything at Cooperage is good. You can get a Wookiee of the Year 4-pack, a Juicy IPA.
You got any non-IPAs in there?
You can get a Cultivating Mass 2018 World Beer Cup Gold Medal Imperial Stout. They have pale ales. They have oatmeal stout. They have a wheat ale with apricots, mellow sunshine, strawberry, watermelon, and mint sparkle pants hard seltzer.
I'm going to drink one of those at the event.
If you're into hard seltzers.
I might drink 10 of those at the event. That sounds delicious.
That might be a late night thing after
Can't wait.
Occasional beer
after the festivities. There's the Kurt bobblehead. Double bird.
We have that's a Kurt bobblehead. We may or may not have one here as well. Shout out to Kurt, shout out to Tyler, shout out to Cal, shout out to everyone at Cooperage.
Shout out to Joseph in the chat who had a Candlestick Chronicles on tap yesterday. That's probably why the Niners won today, Joseph, because you had a Candlestick Chronicles on tap. Candlestick Chronicles Hazy IPA from CooperageBrewing.com. Visit CooperageBrewing.com right now, order yourself some beer, and then come to our event on September 23rd at the brewery in Santa Rosa. 7 p.m. is the start time, but we'll be there a little early. Shooting the shit, drinking some beer, and we're going to talk some football and drink some beer. It's going to be a great time. See you there.
It's going to be great.
All right, let's talk about the 49ers win over the Rams. Here we go. 49ers 30, Rams 23, death taxes, the Niners beating LA in the regular season. 9 consecutive victories over the Rams in the regular season for San Francisco, and 12 consecutive victories overall, just very quietly the second longest winning streak in franchise history. That's pretty wild, but definitely not the way I thought this game was going to go, Chris.
No, not at all. I think the Rams were a lot better than I anticipated. I sort of looked at last week, and I said it during the week, watching the Seahawks-Rams game, I just thought the Seahawks were awful. And I think I sort of undervalued what Sean McVay brings to the table. I thought for the first half, Sean McVay was eating Steve Wilkes' lunch today.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that it was just... Matt Stafford was getting anything he wanted because the 49ers looked like they were so scared of getting beat over the top that all of the just stop routes and the curl routes were there because the 49ers were playing in off coverage, and it allowed Stafford to get the ball out of his hand really quickly, which just negated the 49ers pass rush for the most part.
Yep.
And then in the second half, we'll dive into that a little bit later. But in the second half, the Niners dialed up a lot more blitzes, started to make some plays defensively. They allowed 17 points on 3 Rams possessions in the first half, and then 6 points on 7 possessions in the second, which just sort of speaks to the defensive adjustments that they made. But offensively, I thought it was like a B-, C+ performance, and they still scored 30 points.
Yeah.
Right. Brock Purdy was probably C+. Brock Purdy, like, he did fine. Like, when the best thing you do is not turn the ball over in a game, that's not really like ideal. But I do think, like, obviously there were some throws he should have made. He had Debo wide open on a deep pass. That felt a lot like Jimmy Garoppolo missing Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. He missed Juwan Jennings. He missed Brandon Ayuk earlier in the game. But overall, I thought Purdy was mostly fine. 17 of 25, 206 yards, no touchdowns, but no picks. Like, that's really the difference. When you got a C+ Jimmy Garoppolo game, it included a pick or two or like a lot of interceptable passes. It didn't seem like Purdy, even though he definitely could have played a cleaner game, he wasn't putting the ball in harm's way. It didn't feel like, man, the 49ers are like really towing that line on making a huge mistake offensively and letting the Rams back in it. It was just kind of like, all right, Purdy's kind of doing his thing. If he hits a couple of those throws, and instead of 30 to 23, it's like, we're talking 40, 44 points, right? And then it's like a real blowout. So there's a pretty thin line between 30 points and 44,
right?
Potentially, right? So I do think, like, I'm not coming away with really any questions about Brock Purdy. I do think we were due at some point for a less than awesome Purdy performance, because he has been so solid for the 49ers for so long, or at least not so long, but since he's become the starting quarterback late last year. But like, they're not going to go undefeated with Brock Purdy. So what's it look like when they lose? And today was sort of the closest it's felt like, at least through the first, 2.5 quarters. It was like, man, maybe they do lose this game. But the defense stiffened up. They scored the points that they needed. They got the turnovers that they needed in the second half. And, it should have been a 10-point win. But
that was weird. Weird time management at the end.
Just decided to go for the all-time cover at the end. Just like really sticking in the eye of 49ers fans, a number of whom probably bet on the game in attendance.
There's never a more united Twitter than backdoor cover Twitter. When a team backdoor covers like that, it is a full-blown meltdown. And this one was particularly bad because the lines closed for the most part at the Niners favored by 7.5, which meant if the 49ers won by 7, then according to the sports book, they lost with the point spread. So for the Rams to kick the field goal to cut the lead from 10 to 7 as time expired was an all-time backdoor cover. I honestly respect the shit out of Sean McVay for doing it. Good teams win, great teams cover, and you love to see that for him. I was impressed. Honestly, that was one of the more impressive Sean McVay games I think I can remember, just from like purely a schematic standpoint. Yeah, there were guys open all the time.
The entire time. And I don't even think the Niners obviously could have gotten more push up front and they could have been stickier in coverage, but like based on the play calls, it seemed like McVay was just like, no, we're just going to take what the defense is giving us.
Right.
And the 49ers were giving it to them until they started blitzing more in the second half and sort of forcing Stafford's hand a little bit.
Yeah. And they got tighter in coverage too.
Yeah. I thought McVay had a really good, I thought McVay had a really good plan until the 49ers adjusted. And I mean, just given like Puka Nacua, 15 catches, 147 yards. Like
that's insane, dude.
If that was Cooper Kupp in a number 10 jersey, 15 catches, 147 yards, you'd be like, yeah, kind of par for the course. But it was Puka Nacua.
Right. Who now has 25 catches in his first 2 games as a pro.
And like, obviously he was good, but it didn't feel like, oh man, this guy's a stud. He's so hard to stop. It's just like, no, he's just running the right routes against the right coverages.
And he's just rock solid. He's just open all the time.
Yeah.
You could tell at the end of the game, though, it was wearing on him. My man was hurting.
Yeah, you get tackled 15 times by an NFL defense in a game.
Yeah, and it was more
no
than
fun.
that because he got hit on a couple of balls that weren't complete. Now,
Right.
I think just on the Brock Purdy bad throws portion of this, I think the only question is, and I think the reason that it even comes up, because if Patrick Mahomes does that, nobody even talks about it. It doesn't even, oh man, Patrick Mahomes missed those throws. But I think that's the question with Purdy is like, man, can they start stretching out their passing game like that and really start hitting teams over the top? And one game doesn't define whether he can or cannot do that. That'd be silly. But I think that's why there's even a focus on it. Is because okay, one of the ways he can be different than Jimmy Garoppolo is he can push the ball down the field, and the willingness to do it is benchmark number one. Very willing to push the ball down the field, but now you got to start completing them. And if he starts doing that, then I really don't know what the answer is for the Niners offense because, like you said, he was not great today, and they still put up 30. It never felt like, oh man, their offense just isn't moving the ball.
Yeah, he was still relatively efficient. I thought he had some really good throws. He had a throw in the first quarter to Brandon Ayuk that
Oh,
over the
that
middle
was a
that
dot,
was
dude.
yeah, that was really good. The jump ball to Juwan Jennings I thought was a really nice throw. He had a third down conversion, I believe, to Juwan Jennings. That was similar to the play that he missed. Deep over the middle where he sort of did the thing where he recognizes that there's somebody coming to hit him and he slides a little bit to his left and then
Yep.
hits Jennings down the middle of the field. Like he still does some high level things. It's just like I do like those long throws stand out as pretty big misses because they're touchdowns. But if he
Right, and
does
those are
that,
the
if he completes those passes and it's like, oh man, he's so good.
right.
He's like his trajectory is like super high. He could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league if he continues to do that. He misses a couple, and it's like, like it's just such a thin line between like this guy's elite or like we still have questions.
Right. And
There's no,
that's fine. Like it's not the end of the world.
but that's why we judge him based on his entire body of work.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
You'll take a game like that and I mean you hit the nail on the head earlier. It was a B minus C plus game and he didn't turn it over.
Yeah.
And he hasn't turned it over through the first two games.
you win
And you'll
by
take
7 points on the road in a
Yeah.
C minus or B minus C plus performance. Like you'll take that
100%.
most times.
I'm right there. Yeah. And then
I mean, if
I
if he
thought-
plays like that in the NFC Championship game, then that's
Right.
like a different thing.
right, you have a little bit of a problem for sure.
Yeah.
No, I also liked what Shanahan did at the end of the half with a second left going for it from inside the one instead of trying to take the points. Knowing that the Rams were getting the ball back to start the second half, knowing that your defense hasn't gotten a stop all game. The difference between 3 and 0 there is very minimal. So just try and take the 7 to tie the game. And if
Yeah.
you don't, then like I said, being what did that make it?
17-17. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're down 17-13 versus 17-10, there's no difference.
The play before the touchdown, I thought they could have run the sneaker. I thought they were going to run a quarterback draw.
Me too.
I think he was in shotgun, and it was a play that he threw it away to Christian McCaffrey. And I thought Mark Sanchez made a good point that like if you're throwing that away, dirt it, like throw it right at Christian McCaffrey's
Yes.
feet because that gives you more time. But because he threw it high, that obviously takes longer to actually happen.
Yeah.
But the Niners were fortunate to have 1 second left, and I thought it was definitely smart to go score because the quarterback sneak for this team just always works.
It seems to. Yeah.
Like Jimmy Garoppolo got a lot of credit for it working. Maybe I mean I don't know. When's the last time the 49ers didn't convert a quarterback sneak? Do you remember any?
I feel like it happened with Brock.
Okay.
Like really shortly after Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. Because somebody was like, oh, underrated aspect of
Right.
Garoppolo's game was the sneak and it showed there or something like that. I don't know. But it doesn't like stand out as glaring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, big picture, I mean, the defense was good in the second half, but I think overall, like I think Brock Purdy's performance is sort of emblematic of the whole team's. like probably a B- game, but you still score 30 points. You still win by 7 points on the road in the division.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you'll take anyone you can get in the NFL, obviously, but that one in particular, like, okay, second straight road game. Now you come home. Now it's a short week. I'm curious to see. I obviously didn't watch the Giants Cardinals game, but the Giants came back. I think they were down 21-0. But
Mm-hmm.
I am curious to see what the 49ers look like on Thursday at home. I think being at home will give them a little bit of juice, obviously, but coming a short week off two straight road games. I know it's just a trip to LA, but you're still getting on a plane. You still
Mm-hmm.
flew down there. You stayed in a hotel Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably getting back to the Bay Area pretty soon here, I would guess. But um, I'm just curious to see what they look like. And I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
good segue to talk about Nick Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought he looked gassed today for
Yeah,
a
for
lot of the
like,
game.
yeah, he was. It felt like they cut to him on the sideline a lot, like on a knee, drinking water.
Yeah.
And that's
And
that's nice that he didn't have the snap restriction. And last week, he talked about it in a pregame interview with Howie Long on Fox. How the 5 straight 3-and-outs to start the game let him kind of get into a groove. And yeah, he's on the field for 3 snaps and he gets to go sit down for a while. Whereas today, he was on the field for a bunch of snaps and then got to sit down. And there was a bunch more snaps. And I think those start to stack. And all of a sudden, okay, physically, he's fine. He can take a hit and he can hit somebody. But you could tell he was winded.
yeah, and I saw some tweets about what he said post game that, he's the way he talked about it, I think was like, yeah, I feel good, but I think he indicated he's very much not like in actual game shape. He's getting to that place where he needs to be from a conditioning perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But that was always the thing with the holdout, right? It's like, yeah, obviously Nick Bosa is not going to like get fat and come in looking like Aaron Lynch,
Mm-hmm.
but like there's a difference between participating in training camp and going through all those padded practices and just doing whatever he was doing,
Mm-hmm.
in Florida. Then, and that's not to like denigrate anything he did. I'm sure he has an amazing workout program, but it's just not the
You
same
think?
as like playing football against Trent Williams for a
Right.
month. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Iron sharpens iron.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
No, but that was the concern, right? Was okay, even if he's healthy, it's going to take him a while to just get his football legs under him.
Yeah,
Like there's a reason training camp is a month long and there's a whole off-season program before that.
right, right.
Yeah.
So what was his stat line defensively? He had some pressures, but it didn't feel like when Nick Bosa. I mean, he still had 3 quarterback hits in a TFL, so it's not like he was awful. But like when Nick Bosa is peak Nick Bosa,
Right.
he's like dominating the game.
There were
And like,
points you forgot he was on the field today.
yeah, and it's just like when the Rams are going hurry up, and it's like 3-step drop, balls out, 3-step drop, balls out.
Mm-hmm.
It's there were just fewer instances for him to like really blow up a play, because there are instances when he's playing well and in really good shape midseason, and like he does blow up a play that like a 2-step drop that's designed to get the ball out quickly. Like he is capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think this is sort of what happens when you hold out. And like, look, he got his money. I would never criticize Nick Bosa for getting his money, but in terms of like evaluating how he's playing, I think it definitely looks like the holdout has had an effect on how he's played.
Yeah.
Probably more today than last week, just because, as you mentioned, he did have all those 3-and-outs that
Mm-hmm.
he's just able to get off the field and get some rest. But like when the Rams are putting together some of those long drives, that tested Nick Bosa in a way that he wasn't tested really all last week.
Yeah. And if you're the Niners, that's obviously not optimal, but you had to know it was coming a little bit after the holdout. And to be 2-0 through his first 2 games where, he hasn't been super effective, but defensively, for the most part, saved the first half today, been fine, then I think you'll probably take that.
Yeah.
And things could definitely be worse. So it'll be interesting to see for sure what he looks like on the short turnaround. Speaking of playing time for star players, our guy Ernesto in the chat brings up this, which I wanted to talk about, was Christian McCaffrey running the ball late in the game. I saw Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers also bring this up. And I think that was it was a legitimate gripe of mine after the Steelers game, because that game was put away relatively early in the fourth quarter, and Christian McCaffrey got a lot of just really tough between the tackles, salt the game away carries that I thought probably could have gone to Elijah Mitchell
or even Jordan Mason.
Or Jordan Mason, just anybody who was not Christian McCaffrey, right? But today, that game was still close enough that anything weird could have swung it. And you trust Christian McCaffrey in that spot. And the reason he's your number one back is because you do trust him in that spot. Whereas Elijah Mitchell or Jordan Mason, you may not. And so they had to lean on their dudes today, because I don't think at any point it was really like, oh, they're just trying to run out the clock. It was legitimately like trying to get first downs and, yeah, trying to run out the clock a little bit, but not a point where you could have confidently gone to Elijah Mitchell or Jordan Mason. At least that's my thought.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, it's one thing if the game is completely out of hand and there's really no reason to be playing the guy, but to your point, like they needed McCaffrey in there in that moment, and like winning these games is really important. Like I think that's ultimately the theme for at least like the first couple months of the season in comparison to the last 2 years when the Niners started out slow. There's a lot of urgency to win these games because it's a hell of a lot easier to get to the Super Bowl when you're the number one seed. Yep. And teams have to come into your building to win the NFC Championship game, as we saw in 2019 versus the other playoff runs the 49ers have had, where they haven't gotten to the Super Bowl because they've had to go on the road. So, like, yeah, do you ideally want to keep Christian McCaffrey in bubble wrap until the playoffs? Sure, but like he's getting paid a good amount of money. I know he's had injury issues in the past, but like I watch Christian McCaffrey on the field in training camp and during the offseason program. Like, dude is like practices hard and is in phenomenal shape. And just like, if you don't know anything about like his injury history, you just watch him. You're just like, oh yeah, I don't worry about that dude physically.
Mm-hmm. Not at all. He just
looks like a dude. You're like, oh, that guy, like just the way he moves. You're like, he's not going to take any false steps and hurt himself. I don't know. It's just like a weird eye test thing, but like he just looks like a dude. Like, yeah, I trust that dude's going to be healthy. And I'm not saying that he's immune to injuries by any means. I'm just saying, like, you're paying him a lot of money. He's one of your most dynamic players on the field. You have to win these games. You would much rather have to give Christian McCaffrey a handful of touches and come away with a win than have it get precarious like it did in week 1 in Detroit 2 years ago.
Here's exactly what happens here. If Christian McCaffrey today had twisted his ankle with 3.5 minutes left or whatever, it would have been like, oh man, tough injury luck. If they had Elijah Mitchell running the ball and he fumbled and the Rams returned it for a touchdown, then it's, hey, why the hell did you trade all that and pay Christian McCaffrey all that money if you're not going to use him in these spots? Right. And I think that tells it. Now, I think that probably is not the case for last week, which is why I feel differently about last week's game with McCaffrey carrying the ball late versus this one.
Yeah.
I think there's a pretty distinct difference between 30-10 late and 30-20 late.
Yeah. So I would agree. I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, you have to win these games. And at some point, like, I think there's a bigger question overall. Like, can you get Elijah Mitchell in the game more? Like, can you?
He didn't take a snap today, right?
I don't think he did. He definitely didn't get a carry. Like the only guys to run the ball today are McCaffrey, who had 116 yards on 20 carries. Debo had 5 runs for 38 yards. And then Purdy had 3 runs, basically scrambles, aside from the quarterback sneak. But like Elijah Mitchell only had 10 yards on 5 carries in week 1.
Mm-hmm. And
you would love, obviously, like when the 49ers were really going last year, Elijah Mitchell was playing pretty well when he came back up from the injury.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look like it was great in week 1 with him in particular. I know it was a very limited sample size and the Steelers are probably overplaying the run.
Mm-hmm.
But like it wasn't, 5 carries, 10 yards. It wasn't like, okay, we got to get that guy in the game week 2.
Sure.
But I think going forward, you would definitely love to have like a 75-25 split
Yeah.
between those two in terms of carries and touches, because Elijah Mitchell's talented enough.
Mm.
And long term, that would probably be better in terms of like limiting the amount of damage Christian McCaffrey's body takes going into the playoffs. But when it's like the fourth quarter of a close game, I'm not like, no, you got to take one of your best players out.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I would, my quibble would be like, let's get Elijah Mitchell some carries in the second quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. Just mix it up. Yeah. I do wonder though if the 49ers offense is so McCaffrey based now that when you put Mitchell in, it just dramatically changes what they're doing.
Yeah, and it might have been too.
It's just such a stark shift for them.
Well, it might have been too that like with Brandon Ayuk dealing with a shoulder injury, and Deebo Samuel after some of his plays having to come out, like you want one of those three guys out there, including McCaffrey, right? Like you want your dynamic playmakers on the field, at least one of them.
Right.
So if you have a play where Brandon Ayuk has to sit a couple snaps because his shoulder's hurting, Deebo took a big hit on a run and he has to sit out. If if it's Elijah Mitchell, Ronnie Bell, and Ray McLeod, that's a lot different skill set on the field than when you have McCaffrey, Deebo, and Ayuk, obviously. So like you're making a pretty big sacrifice if you're like, well, we definitely want to keep Christian McCaffrey from taking too many hits, but at the same time, when you need to score points or you need to extend a drive, you don't want to have your backup running back and your two backup receivers out there at the same time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Can we jump over to the other side of the ball real quick and talk about Isaiah Oliver?
Man, great game for him.
Really nice game for him. He missed a tackle early on. So Ambry Thomas was the nickel corner to start the game.
Well, he was outside. I think Lenore was playing nickel.
Outside. Right. You're right. He was on the field to start the game. And he just got torched. The Rams were going at him every single time Stafford was dropping back. Oliver came in for the next series. Immediately missed a tackle on a play where Kyron Williams caught the ball while he was on the ground. And he shed Oliver's tackle while he was standing up. And I legitimately at that point was like, why is Isaiah Oliver playing? He's supposed to be the big nickel, right? Which means you go tackle a running back when he's literally getting up off the ground. But after that, he goes in. He has the interception on the tip ball, which was a really nice grab. He had the fourth down stop that just kind of sealed the game. I thought after that missed tackle, I thought he was really, really good for the rest of that game. And for me moving forward, I think you just play him in the slot with Lenore outside and Thomas is a reserve.
I thought he had the three biggest defensive plays of the game.
Yeah.
He had the tackle in the open field. I think it was on Kyron Williams on
that's right, the third down stop.
On a third down stop.
That's right.
And he made the interception, which like obviously, Williams tipped it up in the air, but to haul it in with one hand, still like a pretty impressive interception. Yep. And then the fourth down stop was like one of the rare instances where I was like, man, Steve Wilkes has the perfect call against something that the Rams are doing. That was a perfect call. Sending a blitz in that gap was the absolute perfect call on that fourth down play. And Oliver made the tackle behind the line of scrimmage to help seal it.
Yep.
I thought like Fred Warner's sack was obviously big. Lenore's interception was obviously big. the sack of Matthew Stafford on third down.
he also had a pressure to force a throwaway after the intentional grounding.
But like three of the defense's five best plays, I would say, off the top of my head right now, were Isaiah Oliver plays.
Yeah. To me, you play him in the slot moving forward until you need otherwise. I know they said they're going to adjust it based on matchups and this and that. Like, you just put that guy in. Yeah. And if it doesn't wind up working out, then you make an adjustment then. But he was just flat out better today than Ambry Thomas. And Lenore had an interception playing outside.
Yeah, and Thomas is banged up dealing with a knee injury.
Yeah.
So that's probably something, I don't know, it feels like they've been sort of experimenting since like the middle of August, really.
Yeah. It feels like, speaking of injuries, it feels like the Niners really lucked out with Brandon Ayuk. Kyle Shanahan said after the game that he didn't expect it to be any kind of serious issue. just knowing that he came back into the game. But man, when he first went down, like it just looked kind of awkward the way he dove and then got landed on. And then when you see a football player roll over grabbing at their collarbone,
Right.
that's just typically not good. But he did keep playing, and Shanahan after the game didn't sound super concerned.
Yeah. And Ayuk, I think, is like pretty tough for a receiver. Right? Like there are some receivers who like just aren't as physically tough. Like I've never felt like Brandon Ayuk is ever scared to take a hit or scared to go over the middle.
Yeah, no. No.
And he's certainly
He
not
was ready
scared
to
block.
box Fred Warner.
Yeah. That's true. So yeah, like if he's hurt, he's one of those dudes where I like really believe it that he's hurt.
Yeah.
He has equity in that department, unlike some other players, namely, I don't know, maybe the kicker.
Stop. Jesus.
No, I
Good
just
Lord.
I mean the thing with Ayuk potentially being hurt, and we talked about it at the time of the McCaffrey trade. This is why you have so many guys. Because like obviously when you have everybody healthy, you're super difficult to defend. But when you miss one, then it's like, all right, it's a lot easier to absorb a Brandon Ayuk injury when you have Christian McCaffrey and when you have Deebo Samuel and George Kittle than when you don't.
Right. Having more good players is better than having less good players. I've always said that.
It's an underrated part of like people's. And I think I did this too. Like even when the rumors came out that like, oh, the 49ers are interested in trading for Christian McCaffrey. I was like, why? Doesn't feel like they need Christian McCaffrey. Like they have a lot of dudes. It's like, well, in the NFL, there's a chance you're going to be missing a dude or two. And it's good to have more dudes.
And he just changes the entire complexion of their offense. As good as Elijah Mitchell is, McCaffrey is just straight up an excellent running back. I was talking with at ESPN 1320. I was talking with Kenny Caraway the other day, and he goes, I feel like Christian McCaffrey doesn't get talked about enough as a runner. And it sounds funny off the top because everybody is like Christian McCaffrey is a consensus top 2 or 3 running back in the league. Yeah. But I think so much is made of his versatility that just in a vacuum as a runner, he is outstanding. And I think you see that. I feel like he creates a lot of yards in this offense. And that other players would not have.
Based on my non-professional, or I guess amateur lip reading skills, I think he's a good trash talker too.
Yeah. He told Ahkello Witherspoon to shut your bitch ass up. Damn. If somebody steamrolls me like that and like stiff arms me as we're going to the ground, the last thing I'm going to do is say anything, obviously. And that's mostly because I would be afraid somebody would say, shut your bitch ass up. And I would have to in that moment. I'm going to wait.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. I think members...
The 49ers agree with him?
I was going to say, I think members of the 49ers organization would find it pretty rich that Ahkello Witherspoon would be talking smack to Christian McCaffrey after a 50-yard run, is how I would phrase that.
Okay. Fair.
But shout out to Christian Brothers, Sacramento.
Shout out. Hey, how about those Colorado Buffs, huh?
Oh yeah, them too.
Yeah. Anyways, maybe they were just Pac-12 trash talking.
That must have been it. Ahkello took exception, or is like
because Colorado's going to the Big Ten, right?
Right. Nah, they're going to the Big 12, I think.
Big 12?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're going back.
Yeah. So okay. Ahkello going, you don't want that Big 12 noise. And Christian going, hey man, ACC.
ACC for life. College realignment shit talking. Anyways.
That'd be great. Do you want to go through our prize picks?
Stingers up, baby. Let's go.
Oh,
Sac State beat Stanford.
Stingers all the way up.
Dude, Sac State.
Those are some wayward stingers right now, man. They are pointing north.
It's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Everybody's looking straight up in the air. No, it's super wild that an FCS team was only a 7-point road dog.
Well, they ended
against
up winning,
an FBS team.
Yeah, that's
I know.
Vegas knows.
I know.
Tough scene for Troy
I
Taylor,
knew.
man.
Really tough.
You leave Sac State, you go for the Stanford job, and then
take a step backward in program. Tough. Really, really tough. It's more of a baseball school, like a women's basketball school anyway, Stanford. Good for them. So,
talking mess about like a university that produces some of like the highest quality
I know,
humans in the like the people who achieve the most on planet Earth.
What's
like
it?
Talking, yeah, it's a girls' basketball school.
What's it? Women's basketball. Come on, man.
Women's basketball.
What's it? I mean, they're dominant program. No, but shoot, what was I gonna say? It's about Sac State. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Wally Lama in our YouTube chat brings up something that I meant to write down, and I'm thankful that he brought this up because I was gonna forget about it. Drake Jackson made a couple of really, really, really nice plays today.
Go ahead.
He chased down a screen on a third down early in the game to force a field goal, where that might have gone for 6. That might have been a touchdown.
They showed the replay. I was like, oh, that's a touchdown if he doesn't come and make
he was gone
because there were blockers in front of. Was it Kyron Williams?
Yeah. And so he chased him down from behind, and then to be out on a bootleg with a quarterback and knock his pass down is wild. Like, that's really hard to do. So, and then he created a pressure just outrunning the tackle to the corner, which I thought was impressive.
He plays really hard.
Yeah. I think he's good.
Yeah, I think he's going to be good. He didn't have the benefit of going against a quarterback who held onto the ball for too long like he did in week 1. And I'm not trying to like throw shade on his 3-sack performance, but like there are a couple, one or two of them was like Kenny Pickett just did not get rid of the ball. But he plays hard, and like I also think he's super athletic, and him developing would be huge for them.
If you're an athlete, if you're that type of athlete at his size and with a motor, you're just going to run into good plays. Whether you're a highly refined Pro Bowler, maybe not, but you can create a really long, productive career by trying hard and being a great athlete. Anyways, Peter Inman in the YouTube chat says, I don't know about you guys, but that Niners win is almost as sweet as draining your first eagle from 170 out on a 2-hop. I agree. It was that sweet.
I'm so salty.
Almost. Yeah.
So
there it is.
Salty. Like the hardest hole at Harding Park.
Dude, get dialed in with the distances on your 9-iron. Come on, man. Anyways.
Shout out to Peter.
You want to do prize picks?
Yeah, let's do prize picks. Do we want to share the screen on this? I'm salty about this a little bit.
Yeah, you can if you want. I have it up on my phone. I had 2 prize picks involving this game. My first one did not win at all. I went 0 for 3 on it. I had Anthony Richardson more than 43.5 rushing yards. He got hurt at 35 rushing yards. I had Matthew Stafford less than 4.5 rushing yards. He had 12. I had Deebo Samuel less than 12.5 rushing yards. He had 24. I had Brock Purdy more than 234.5 passing yards. He had 199.
Yikes.
I should get something for going over 4.
Should you?
It's really hard to be that inept.
You should get dragged on YouTube for
just an impressive amount of ineptitude. But the one I gave out on the show and on our Instagram reels was a W. I had Christian McCaffrey more than 66.5 rushing yards. He had 98. I had Deebo Samuel, as did you, more than 50.5 receiving yards. He had 56. And then I had Tyler Higbee less than 45.5 receiving yards. Just snuck that one under at 9 yards.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I felt really like I said Kyron Williams would be their number 1 back, and he was. Apparently Cam Akers like broke some rules during the week and was like inactive or something. But so my play on him less than 32.5 yards would have hit, but he was a DNP, so it doesn't count.
Brutal.
Hit Matthew Stafford on the over 228.5. I mean, I just thought that was easy money. Like, Niners defense is good, obviously, but Stafford throwing for 307, I think is about what I expected. Deebo Samuel just always kills the Rams.
Yep.
So that 13 yards more than was good. George Kittle. Hey, is George Kittle a glorified blocking tight end at this point?
Are you putting George Kittle on washed watch? Is that what you're trying to tell me,
Come
Chris?
on, man. I thought like late when they had that 3rd and long to seal it on the last possession right before, or basically when Juwan Jennings was called for the crackback block on
Yeah.
the Christian McCaffrey run. I was like, oh, they're gonna go to George. This is going to be a George Kittle 10-yard special.
Mm-hmm.
Going to run flow, maybe play action, something, get him in space, get him to
Yeah.
get the first down, and I'm going to hit my overs or my more thans on George, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes. I had Travis Hunter in a PrizePicks last night, and that didn't go well for me. My man got lit up and hurt. So
Man, he was talking a lot of mess before the game and being like, they're all bark and no bite, blah blah blah, and then they like knock him out of the game.
yeah, that was a tough watch.
Tough scene.
Didn't love that.
I hope he's good. I haven't. Have you heard anything on that?
Guess he's out a few weeks.
Okay, but he didn't like damage an organ or anything, did he?
Not that I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Niners have a short week. They'll be back in the Bay Area Sunday night. I'm sure the coaches will probably be at the facility all week and not go home and see their families to prepare for the Giants on Thursday. I'm guessing the Niners are going to have one practice on Tuesday, and it'll probably be a walkthrough. Probably another walkthrough on Wednesday. Rest and recovery day on Monday. We'll dive into the Giants-Cardinals game, but
what the hell?
What on earth happened in that Cardinals Giants game? Did the Cardinals like just go up big in the first half and then remember like no guys, we're tanking? They were
I have
up
no
20,
idea.
They were up 20-0 and lost 31-28.
I pretty rarely when I rewatch or when I watch a game that I missed, in fact, I'm not even going to say pretty rarely. I never watch the TV copy. I watch the condensed game. And if there's something that I really want to nail down and dig deep on, I'll do the all 22, but that's pretty rare. I'm going to watch the full TV copy of that Giants-Cardinals game.
Yeah.
I need to know what the broadcasters thought of that turnaround.
Dan Jones, 26-37, 21 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 9 runs, 59 yards, and a tud.
I have no.
Is Dan Dimes living up to that contract finally?
Maybe. I don't know. Getting down 20-0 to the Cardinals is what some would call inexcusable.
Yeah.
They scored 30. They scored 31 second half points. Yeah. That's really hard to do. They had 5 first downs in the first half.
Man.
Good Lord, man. I have no idea what happened here.
The Cardinals must be really bad.
Dan Jones in the first half, 9 of 16 for 62 yards with a pick. Saquon Barkley, 7 carries for 24 yards. Huh. I don't know, man. I can't wait to watch it.
NFC West standings, Niners lead 2-0, obviously. Rams 1-1. Seattle goes to Detroit. I thought after watching week 1, I was like, Seattle's bad. Like this is going to be a bad season. This might be like Pete Carroll's like final straw. Pretty impressive win for them. They did win an overtime game in Detroit in which they had a pick 6 and they scored a touchdown off a fumble deep in the Lions territory. So not saying it's like fraudulent, but getting 14 points off turnovers like that on the road, obviously it's hard to lose when that happens.
Yeah. Did you see the sack? Did you see the sack Gino took at the end of the game? At the end of regulation? They have a 3rd and 18, I believe. In like fair enough, not anywhere near the 50 or anything, but good enough that a good punt would pin the Lions deep. He takes a 17-yard sack to bring up like a 4th and 35. And then the Lions got the ball at like midfield. It's a tough look for my guy Gino. He was good today, though. 32 of 41, 328, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The big takeaway for me from today, including that Seahawks game with the Rams, is the Rams are legit. Like, I think the Rams are actually going to win like 8 or 9 games this year.
Yeah, if Matt Stafford can stay healthy, they definitely like I said earlier in the pod, I was impressed with Sean McVay.
Me too.
I think he's really good schematically. I think he's less good like as a game manager in terms of like when to challenge and call timeouts and all those things. But like schematically today, I thought he was on point, and he gave a dramatically less talented roster a pretty good chance to compete with one of the best teams in the NFC.
I think that was one of the things that just kind of happened as that game wore on, is the Niners are just better.
Yeah,
they just had the dudes to make plays, and the Rams didn't.
Well, yeah, the differences were like the Niners got 2 takeaways, and the Niners didn't turn the ball over.
Right.
You know, so
the longest play of the day was 20. That's crazy.
Say it again.
The Rams' longest play of the day was 20 yards.
Yeah,
like it was just so much underneath, just taking 8, 9, 10 yards.
Stafford threw 55 times and averaged 5.6 yards per attempt. From an efficiency standpoint, that is horrendous.
It's so bad.
Like Brock Purdy averaged 8.2 yards per attempt. If you average 8.2 yards or like 8 yards per attempt in the NFL, that's like a efficiency. That's like where you want to be. That's a good spot.
Right. Really good number.
If you're throwing 55 times and averaging 5.6 yards per attempt, it's not great.
Really, really bad. Yeah. No, I thought the Niners were going to steamroll in this game, and the Rams are just better than I thought they were.
Yeah, and they took advantage of Stafford's.
It is
the pick to Lenore was probably a bad decision. It didn't look like that was open there.
Stafford's going to give you one of those a game, though.
Yeah, he's going to give you one of those a game. And the first one that Oliver took when Williams just batted the ball in the air. That one obviously wasn't Stafford's fault, but like that's kind of a difference though. Like between like you say, Matt Stafford will give you one of those a game. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, it felt like he would give 1 or 2 of those types of throws to the defense away a game.
Yep.
Brock didn't play particularly well, but you don't worry about him throwing interceptions nearly as much.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't even one I can recall today that was like a poor decision or a bad throw. I just think it was there were bad throws, but I mean bad throws like into traffic or into coverage. So, I think he's good.
No picks or 2 games for him.
Yeah. And if he's not turning the ball over, this team's going to score 30 points a lot more than they don't, I think.
And with their defense, they're going to be very tough to beat.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think I have anything else.
C+, B- performance. Win 30-23 on the road. You take it.
I might have new takes after I rewatch it, but on first viewing, to have that type of game and still come out with a win on the road against a division opponent, yeah, you would have liked to have won by more, but it's better than losing that one.
Yeah, we'll get the all 22 going.
Can't wait.
We'll turn the lights out in the lab and grind on this a little bit.
Oh, dude, it's gonna
come back with more takes.
Biblical. All right, thanks everybody for listening and watching. If you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please go ahead and do that. And if you're in the video right now, go ahead and hit that little thumbs up like button. You don't have to do anything with it. It just helps us in the algorithm and helps us get up people's feeds and in front of more eyeballs, which is the goal. So thanks everybody for doing that. And subscribers help that as well. So if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be great. If you subscribe to the pod and want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, thanks. If you've not subscribed to the pod, please do so wherever you get your podcasts, and also rate and also review. That'd be awesome.
Well said. We will see you guys later in the week. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone watching on YouTube, and we'll talk soon.